Oakwood. A town cloaked in silence, an unsettling quiet. It was the kind of place where secrets thrived, hidden beneath the surface of normalcy. The trees stood tall, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching towards the sky. They seemed to watch, to listen. A veil of unease hung over the town, a palpable tension in the air. Something was wrong in Oakwood. The disappearances started slowly at first, a whisper of fear, a ripple of worry. Then they became more frequent, more sinister. The townspeople, once full of life, were now haunted by an unspoken dread. Their eyes darted nervously, their smiles strained. They knew something was amiss, but they dared not speak its name. The darkness seemed to seep from the very heart of the town, a creeping blight that threatened to consume everything in its path. Oakwood, once a picture of idyllic charm, was now a breeding ground for fear, and at its heart a legend began to grow. A legend whispered in hushed tones, the legend of the Whispering Man. They called him the Whispering Man, a spectre, a phantom, a figment of nightmares given flesh. He was more than just a ghost story. He was a living, breathing nightmare that haunted the dreams of those who dared to speak his name. He was said to appear in the dead of night, a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of vision, always just out of reach, just beyond the periphery, where the light couldn't quite touch. His whispers, they said, were like icy tendrils, slithering into your mind, planting seeds of fear. They would wrap around your thoughts, squeezing out any semblance of peace, leaving only dread in their wake. No one knew who he was or where he came from. Some said he was a lost soul. Others believed he was a demon sent to torment the living. He was a creature of darkness, his origins shrouded in mystery. Legends spoke of an ancient curse, a pact with dark forces that bound him to the shadows. He preyed on the vulnerable, the isolated, those who wandered alone at night. His presence was a constant threat, a reminder that safety was an illusion. He would whisper their name, drawing them in, promising solace, offering comfort. His voice was a deceptive melody, a siren song that lured them into his grasp. And then they would vanish, without a trace, without a sound, swallowed by the darkness. His whispers were a siren song, a lure that promised oblivion. They were irresistible, a call that beckoned the lost and the lonely. Those who heard them were lost, their minds consumed by terror. They would become shadows of their former selves, haunted by the echoes of his voice. They would follow his voice, their steps faltering, their eyes wide with fear. And then, silence. The kind of silence that suffocates, that presses down on you like a weight. Another soul claimed by the darkness. Another life snuffed out. Another name added to the list of the missing. The stories spread like wildfire, each telling more terrifying than the last. They became a part of the town's folklore, a chilling reminder of the unseen horrors that lurked in the shadows. Parents would lock their doors, their children clinging to them in fear. They would whisper prayers, hoping to keep the Whispering Man at bay. No one dared to venture out alone, not after dark. The streets would empty, the town would fall silent as if holding its breath. The Whispering Man had cast a long shadow over Oakwood, and its grip was tightening. The fear was palpable, a living, breathing entity that fed on the town's collective dread. Detective Alex Bennett arrived in Oakwood on a day choked with mist. The town seemed to be holding its breath, as if waiting for something to happen. The air was thick with moisture and an unsettling stillness, a silence that seemed to amplify every footstep, every rustle of leaves. He was a man hardened by years on the force, his face etched with the lines of countless investigations. Each wrinkle told a story of a case solved, a mystery unraveled. But even he couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong in this town. It was as if the very air was charged with a sense of foreboding. Bennett was a man of logic, of reason. He prided himself on his ability to see through the fog of confusion and find the truth. He didn't believe in fairy tales or boogeymen. To him, every mystery had a logical explanation, every crime a motive. But the case files he'd been given were impossible to ignore. They were filled with accounts of strange occurrences, of people vanishing without a trace. The disappearances, the whispers, the sheer terror that permeated the town, it was like nothing he'd ever encountered. It was as if the town itself was hiding a dark secret. He began his investigation by interviewing the families of the missing. Each story was more chilling than the last. Their grief was palpable, their fear even more so. They spoke in hushed tones, as if afraid that speaking too loudly might summon the very thing they feared. They spoke of their loved ones being lured away by a whispering voice, their eyes glazed over with a haunting emptiness. It was as if they had been entranced, led away by some unseen force. Bennett listened intently, his mind working overtime. He knew that every detail, no matter how small, could be the key to solving the mystery. He could see the fear in their eyes, the desperation in their voices. It was clear that they were genuinely terrified and that their fear was not unfounded. He knew he had to find out the truth, no matter how disturbing it might be. He was determined to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the shadows. He owed it to the town and to the victims who had vanished without a trace. He would not rest until he had brought the truth to light, no matter the cost. The storm hit Oakwood with the fury of a vengeful god, unleashing its wrath upon the small town nestled in the heart of the forest. Rain lashed down in relentless sheets, the wind howling like a banshee, tearing through the trees and whipping the branches into a frenzy. The old town creaked and groaned under the onslaught, its secrets seemingly ready to spill out from the shadows. The storm seemed to awaken something ancient and malevolent within its very bones. Bennett, undeterred by the tempest, pressed on with his investigation. His determination was unwavering, his mind focused on the task at hand despite the chaos around him. He had received an anonymous tip, a voice trembling with fear on the other end of the line. The caller had spoken of unspeakable horrors, their words etched into Bennett's mind. The abandoned mill on the outskirts of town. It stood as a grim reminder of the town's dark past, a place where the Whispering Man took his victims. That's where the Whispering Man took his victims. The mill was a place of nightmares, its walls echoing with the cries of the lost. He drove through the storm, the wipers battling against the deluge. Each mile brought him closer to the heart of the mystery and the danger that awaited. The old dirt road was treacherous, the car slipping and sliding in the mud. Bennett gripped the wheel tightly, his knuckles white with tension. Lightning flashed, illuminating the skeletal trees lining the road, their branches swaying menacingly in the wind. The forest seemed alive, watching his every move. The mill loomed ahead, a dark and imposing silhouette against the raging storm. It was a beacon of dread, calling him closer. Its windows were dark, lifeless eyes staring out into the night. The building seemed to breathe, its presence almost sentient in the storm. A shiver ran down Bennett's spine. He could feel the weight of the mill's history pressing down on him, a heavy burden of sorrow and fear. He could feel the darkness emanating from the building, a palpable sense of dread. The air was thick with tension, every step forward a battle against the urge to flee. He knew he was walking into the lion's den, but he couldn't turn back now. The truth was within reach, and he had to face whatever horrors lay ahead.